Okie dokie. So today we got a 1998 one-ton Chevy with a 7.4 liter 454. All right, so the symptoms that this was brought here with today, whenever it gets warmed up and it's driven around for a bit, then shut off, sometimes it will not restart until it sits and cools completely down. All right, so knowing that information, these things are known for a handful of problems. The temperature sensor sending unit will go out. So if that's the case and it registers colder than what it actually is, it will overfuel the truck and flood it. I've already run checks, so I know that's not the case, but I'll show you how to check that with a scanner. That's the best way to do it, or you can watch the gauge, I guess. If the gauge is way below what it should be typically at warm, then you know that's probably your case. The other thing is the fuel pressure regulator and the injectors are known to go leaky. So what we're about to find out is it the fuel pressure regulator or is it the injectors leaking? So I have a fuel pressure gauge hooked up. Let's go out here and take a look at it. I hooked this up earlier, and when I hooked it up, it had about 18 PSI of pressure after, you know, whatever sprayed out whenever I plugged it in. So we're gonna go key it up. We're gonna see, and then I'm gonna set my scanner to show some other information to try and get a good idea of what's going on here. So now let's fire it up. Oh, you see how it was very, very rich, and then it went lean as soon as it started, and it's still lean. And it took forever to start. So what that tells me, let's go look at our fuel pressure gauge. But if you saw that it was bleeding off, if it came off rich, we would suspect injectors. But it came out lean. So now we're at 45 PSI of fuel pressure. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kill the engine, and then we're gonna let it sit for about 20 minutes. And then we're gonna go look at that pressure, and if it's bleeding down, that combined with the fact that it's starting lean, staying lean at startup for a while after it sits warm, that tells us that that fuel pressure regulator is bleeding down. Once it bleeds down a good bit, we'll confirm this by cycling the key and running the fuel pump prime multiple times and then firing it up and seeing how it does. Okay, so it's been about, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 minutes. It's been a beer and a cigarette's worth of time. So here we are, not even 20 minutes in, and we're dropped all the way down to 32 PSI. So what we're gonna do now is, I know for a fact if I try and start it now, it's gonna long crank at least while it rebuilds pressure, and then it's gonna throw lean conditions again. So what we're gonna try now is we're gonna cycle this key about 3 or 4 times, let the pump reprime a bunch, and then see if it just fires right off. If it does, we know it's that fuel pressure regulator, and we'll change it out. Now we're gonna prime again. We're gonna do this 4 times. Except it helps if I turn the key all the way, huh? All right, off. On. Off. On. So let's go see what the pressure is now. Let's see if we're back up to like the 50 mark. So these things are actually, they'll start on low pressure, so they will start with like a 30 PSI, right? But now we're back up to 50. I bet you if we turn this key, it's just gonna fire right up. What do you think? And we'll watch our lean and rich conditions again, just so that way we know. Because that is the information we care the most about right now. Now that we've loaded, so we're looking for the lean rich values again, which are way down here at the bottom, so let's just show those. All right, now let's see what happens. What do you know? It fires right up. It was still leaned out a bit at start. Not nearly as long though. I mean, last time it stayed lean for quite a minute while I built that pressure up. So there's that. That's our proof. We're gonna do the fuel pressure regulator, so stay tuned and I'll show you how to do it. It's not that bad of a job, so pretty much anybody can do this. It's just patience and a little bit of hand tools, man. Well, here we are next day. So parts are in. We're gonna do this fuel pressure regulator, and in the meantime, we're gonna do the intake manifold gasket because that has to come off. So as normal, I will have parts in the description for Amazon, and any local parts store will also carry these. So, you know, if you want to order it through Amazon and wait a couple days, use the links. That'd be awesome. Really helps us out. If not, O'Reilly's and AutoZone or any of those places will carry it. It's just a little bit more. But first things first, we're going to remove the breather box. We're going to remove everything up to the throttle body. So that's all pretty straightforward. I'll do it off camera. If anything weird pops up, I'll let you know. Heck yeah. So we got the breather box off. The only weird thing, I mean, obviously it's just a whole bunch of plugs on like the mass airflow sensor and whatnot. And then your standard band clamps. There's one 13 mil nut that goes on top of the little plastic piece on the top side here to get loose from the throttle body. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna try and disconnect the throttle body here. Obviously, if you can't tell, I'm figuring this out on the fly, but it's pretty straightforward. So we'll pull these two harness clips here. We're gonna disconnect the throttle cables, and then we will remove the throttle body from the intake just to get it out of the way. And we will pick up from there. It looks like it's just held on with some 10 millimeter nuts. I'll probably pull this boot off as well, just to get more space to get in there. So, yeah. All right, so we got the throttle body disconnected from everything else. So obviously this boot is just a normal band clamp, flat blade screwdriver, or 8 mil. Both wiring harnesses are disconnected over here. So with the throttle cables, so you just basically rotate your throttle body up. You can push this cable out and fish it out from here. This one, when you hold it up, it slides on this little hook right here. It's like a little channel. So it catches that away like that. So you just flip it up and then pop it off gently. So these, we'll push these out, get these out of the bracket and out of the way. What I've decided is I think I'm gonna try and leave the throttle body on when I pull this intake, just so I don't have to replace the gasket, because I don't have one currently. So, and my plan is if you see the AC line, my evac machine's broken, so I do not want to have to disconnect this AC. So I'm gonna try and take this intake out this direction. This is my game plan, so the throttle body should be able to just ride. There's plenty of space over here. So up next, we're gonna take these two clips like this. We're gonna squeeze them. We're gonna push this back through the bracket, get these cables out of the way over there. I'm gonna pull this harness off of the upper intake here. It's a 13 millimeter. I'm gonna disconnect it down there, even though you don't necessarily have to. I just wanna be able to get it enough freedom. So we'll undo this plug and we'll undo, that looks like it may be a 13, I think it's a 13. So we'll undo that 13 with that ground wire. We'll move this whole harness up here to the front. And then, yeah, and then there's this 13 millimeter nut back here, or bolt, that's holding some sort of bracket to the back of the intake. So we're gonna remove that, and then we should have this whole driver's side free. I'm also gonna pull this spark plug. I'll just do that now. So this is the number 7 cylinder spark plug. That should give us more space to get to this back bolt here. I'm gonna do number 8 on the other side as well, just to give us a little more space. And yeah, so let me get this side cleaned up a little more. Any weird thing that pops up, I'll let you know. And I'll pick back up once I got all this stuff free and we're moving to the driver's side. Sheesh. All right, here we are. So passenger side is now free. So you'll notice over here, I didn't get this completely removed because whoever was in here first put this band clamp directly above this nut to get this ground off. So I just kind of moved it out of the way with a zip tie. You know, we kind of treat this like surgery. We're trying to be minimally invasive here. If I got to pull that, I got to pull it later, but I think it's going to clear fine. This little bracket here, so this goes on the backside like this and holds that wiring harness right here. This was a bit of a booger to get off. So you got to take the nut off, obviously, and then work it off of the stud while it has this little retainer that goes into this bracket back here. So you kind of got to like fish it off of the stud and pop it out. And then you can move that. This all moves pretty freely now. And then you take out this stud as well. So that bracket's off the intake. You'll see I left the throttle body on. We squeezed the retaining clips and popped the throttle cables off. They're fished over there out of the way now. So we are going to move to the driver's side and see what we can figure out. All right, so first things noticed over here, we got to get this upper bracket off that's also holding the wiring harness. The EGR line needs to come off. Am I going to pull the EGR valve or am I going to try and leave it? I don't know. I'll make that decision down the road. This little plastic evap line needs to come off along with this one. Actually, I think this is like a PCV or something. This harness needs to come off and get out of the way. And that looks like it should just about do it, huh? And then, like I said, I'm going to take off that. Once I get all this cleared and pushed back, we'll pop the number 8 cylinder spark plug wire off as well. So that way, hopefully that's not in the way either. And then should be time to pull the intake. So what I'm going to start with is getting this EGR off. see if we can move that out of the way and removing this harness. And yeah, I'll report back with anything that seems kind of tough. All right, here we are. So everything on this driver's side is now free. Got the EGR valve off. So that's a 1 3/8 wrench. You need 2 of them. So you see I got 2 of them right there. So the next day I had to get my brother to bring one home from his work. And the bracket on the back side of the engine back here, I'll put a little circle on it. I got the other side of that off, so that just sits back. So we're ready to unbolt this intake now. So we got 4 13 mils or 1/2 inches. You got one there, one over here, one over there, basically just all the way down each side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna unbolt, or we're gonna loosen the center ones first, and then the outside ones, and then we'll just take them all out, just to be a little extra careful. And then I'll record it whenever I try and pop it out the other side. Hopefully I don't have to take this AC compressor off. But what I'll do if I do is we'll just take the serpentine off, unbolt the AC compressor, and toss it over with the flex hose. I think it's gonna slide though. So I'm gonna get it unbolted, and then we'll try and wiggle her out of there. Well, it's that time. So you'll see that this little valve I left on here, it blocks that bolt from coming all the way out, but it's unthreaded, so it'll ride out and just stay in there. So we're gonna try and slide this puppy out. I guess I'm gonna leave this camera right here. Hopefully it can capture this, and we'll see if we can't carefully wiggle her out of here. Oh, it's interesting there. Not quite sure what I'm hanging on. Let's see. Got it. Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah, dude. That wasn't too bad at all. Hey, look at that. She's got some mud daubers in here. That's how you know it's that's how you know the motor's good. All right, now we got to figure out where this fuel pressure regulator is. So I will locate it and we will get back. Okie dokie. So now that we got the intake off here, so it was 8 bolts. Remember, we let one of them ride, and so now what we got to do is the fuel pressure regulator is way down here on this backside, down underneath that distributor cap. So we're going to pull that distributor cap off. It's a T20 Torx with 2 screws, front and back. So we'll take those off and we'll move it to the side, and then we'll be able to get access to it. So it's held in there with a snap ring, and it's got a vacuum line on it. So what we'll do is I'll get that distributor cap moved over, and then I'll show you how to get it out of there. Funny how when you get stuff out of your way, things come out pretty daggum easily. So yeah, that snap ring was really easy to access without that distributor in the way. So you see it's out now. So the new one, once you get the snap ring off, you just grab it and just pop it out. So the new one will just press in, and then it comes with a new snap ring. So we put the new snap ring on it. Then it's time to put everything back together. It's not the worst job that you could do. It's a little tedious. So you gotta lay way back to the back of the engine, but not a bad gig at all, man. Like I said before, parts will be in the description, and I'll take a video once it's all back together and show that it's working. So this is about the 3rd time I'm going to try this. So after this, I'm going to stamp it good. So I got it nice and warm. It's been cooling down for about 10 minutes. This is when it used to just crank and crank and crank, and it wouldn't restart. Fired right up, baby. So for me, the biggest issue was when we pulled the distributor, I didn't know how to mark it. So I had to put it in top dead center, retime the whole thing. And then I got it off just a few degrees on the twist, so it was throwing a code for the camshaft crankshaft sensors not being in line. So I ended up shoving my hand down on the backside of the engine, loosening the distributor, turning it just enough to get it all like mucho goodo. But yeah, problem is solved. Hopefully this video makes sense. It's taken a few days now, so sometimes they get a little confusing there. It's not too bad of a job at all, and it's just a little tedious, takes a little bit of time, but this one is good to go.